go live with the videos now, with the class. Just a few seconds and yeah, the class will start in full. I do hope we have a good day today in this class. I'm really looking forward to seeing you come over, hearing that you passed your exams. You know, it's such a good feeling to know that what we're doing is not in vain, and at the end of the day, you get your heart desire, you know. So yeah. Okay, so Tony, how are you doing? I hope you are okay. Yes, so all right, let's get started. Welcome to the class this evening. We'll just start and other people will join us as soon as they can. My name is Joy Agagwu. I will be your anchor for tonight's class. Today we shall be talking about writing task 1. Rather, we will continue. Yeah, let me say that because we've talked a bit about writing task 1 before, so we're going to continue from where we stopped on writing task 1. We have talked about the general structure of the writing task 1. We discussed what writing task 1 is. We have talked about the band descriptors and what your examiners are expecting of you. Excuse me. We have talked about graph. Generally, we have discussed graph, and we were talking about a process task. Yeah, a process task. When in our last class about writing task 1, we actually talked about the process graph. So I'll just go briefly over what we've done. We said that the general structure of the writing task 1 is where you are expected to write 150 words and above. And I did advise that it is better to have between 150 and 170. Don't write too much because in a multitude of writing, errors are not absent. There will be errors. So as much as possible, make your work, you know, as precise and concise as possible, so your examiner doesn't have too much work to read, and then so you stand a chance, a safer chance of making errors. All right. We talked about the band descriptors of the writing task. That these are the criteria that you will be rated on in your writing task. The examiner is going to be rating you on 4 things. We have discussed extensively task completion and accomplishment. We have talked about lexical resource. We have talked about grammatical range and accuracy. All right, and we discussed coherence and cohesion. All of these have their own bands, and we have been able to discuss how to use them or how to look out for them so we can have a higher band score. If you've not seen that class, please have a look on our YouTube channel and you'll find the class there. The previous classes are actually there. We're still getting feedback on the previous one. So if you have a look, excuse me, you will find what we have done before and you'll be able to, you know, join 1 and 2 together and you connect and you are carried along so you don't get lost. We said that the structure is that we have 3 paragraphs. where you have your general statement, which is your overview, and your overall statement, sorry, and then the body, which is the overview. Now, and then you have the summary. For writing task 1, you avoid the use of certain phrases like in conclusion or conclusively, because you're not expected to have a conclusion in your writing task 1. In writing task 1 as well, you are not expected to make any assumptions or say your opinions or anything. There's a good thing about the general task 1, which is that you get a diagram of something. You get a diagram of either a graph, you get a diagram of maybe like a process graph or something, a line map, a plan, a diagram of an equipment or something. You get a diagram of something. So there you are expected to answer based on what you see. You answer based on what you see. And you are not expected to write too much, just 150 words. And they are giving you instruction on what to write. They say maybe summarize, identify, summarize, highlight, so compare, make comparisons where necessary. That's what you basically find. And in your first paragraph, which is your overall statement, we have said that you are going to paraphrase the question, and then you put an overall statement, which is what you can see immediately. All right. You have seen that there's a graph before you, and in this graph, there are two nations, for instance, who were engaged in 2 different activities, and you discover that one of the nations maybe performed better than the other, or they engaged in a particular activity or event than the other. Your overall statement is just to tell us what you can see just merely looking at this graph. Like you just saw that maybe nation A, overall, nation A has done very well or has engaged more in this activity, while nation B has, carried out more of the other events. So yeah, you are meant to just add your overall statement. What you can conclude, merely looking at the graph, what you can say, that's what you add to your general statement. Then your general statement, how you are going to get a rephrase is for you to get what we call synonyms. To use synonyms, words that have the same meaning or very near meaning, but will not change the meaning of the sentence or what has been said. You use those words, all right? Yeah. So after that, you have the body of your paragraph. And in the body, that's where you do all your highlights. For like graphs, maybe you have 2 graphs. You discuss one graph in one paragraph and you discuss the second graph in the other paragraph. If you have one graph and you have been made to highlight, you just told to summarize, then you divide your ideas into 2. You talk about some in the first paragraph and some in the last paragraph. And in your conclusion, which is the last paragraph, you are going to talk about what you have said overall, what you have said. To talk about what you have seen overall, all right? What you have been able to, like summarize. It's just a summary of what your tax 1 is telling you to do. In some instances, you have in some instances, you have maybe in a process graph, for example, you need to get a dividing point. You need to get a starting point, like I tried to explain in the last time we talked about a process graph. There are sometimes you get a map. Maybe the map is 2, maybe the map is 1, depending on what you're presented with. That's how your answers are going to be. And That will take us to talking about languages or phrases or sentences or words that are used in description of these tasks, these different tasks, all right? For instance, where you have a graph, you are looking out for words like decline, where there is a reduction, or where there's a decrease. You are looking for words like increase, like peak, where it got to the highest. You are looking for words like stable. You are looking for words like fluctuations, where there are, three different things, where it was high, it was down, like that, where there are fluctuations. There are specific words that you use in the description of these different tasks. So we have discussed the one of the graph extensively, and we moved over to the process graph. In the course of the class, we will be sharing our screen. If you don't have your video on, please kindly excuse us and join the YouTube class, please. If you don't have your video on, you don't want to be seen, it's not a problem. We are okay with that. It does not stop you from enjoying the class or from listening, but you kindly join the other class, please. Join the YouTube class where you don't need to be seen. If not, we need your videos on, please. Thank you very much. So I was saying that if you get a process graph, there's a way to answer your process graph. There's a way to answer your normal graph. There's a way to answer the map. There are keywords that your examiner is on the lookout for. And if you get these keywords already, you have added to your bunch of vocabulary. So at the end, you are looking for just a few more things to add to it, and you get your 150 words or like 170 words as I advised. I'd advised that it should not be too much. So yeah, today I will go over a process graph again because we were on it in our last class. We'll go over a process graph and then we will move on from there. I believe everyone can hear me. All right. So in a process graph has to do with a graph where you see like a stage by stage kind of activity. Here you can get a graph of maybe how a machine operates, maybe the production of a particular thing, maybe the production of rice for you to eat after it is milled or something, how it goes through that process. That's a process graph, okay? You can have maybe the process of carrying out a particular activity, like giving an injection, for instance, where the first stage is to do your identification, where you know what the medication is, where you check for all of the prescription rights and all of that, whether it is the right prescription for the right patient, whether it is the right patient, whether it is the right medication and the dose that the doctor had written, whether there's a signature on that prescription or not. Where you do that, that can be a first stage. And then you move over to where you probably have to pick out your injection, and then you withdraw using the syringe and the plunger, you prime, you do this, and then maybe move over to the next stage where you have to identify the point, the site that you're going to use from the swapping or the cleaning of the site that you will use, and then from the time that you are going to give the injection and how you will give the injection. It can be a process like that of things that happen. One good thing that I want you to always bear in mind is the fact that you need to de-learn or unlearn whatever you know about this process if you have a knowledge of it before. For instance, if you see an injection process in an exam, for example, you will find out that as a nurse, you already know everything about this or almost everything. So you may see that some processes are not there, some steps are not in it. Don't include it, don't write it, don't add it to it. Just go by what you have been given, just like I told us in the reading test, all right? Forget about whatever you know about this already. So there are steps that you must follow. So if I find, for example, that process of giving an injection, an IM injection, what do? There's a way that you will plan this, all right? What you need to do first of all in your step is to read the question and the process diagram, then you underline your keywords, all right? And you paraphrase your words where possible. There are some places that you can turn nouns into verbs, and then verbs into nouns as well. The diagram will always tell you something that you will need to change at the end of the day. A good use of your synonyms will help to boost your vocabulary. Good use of uncommon synonyms will add for you more marks depending on the examiner. So what do? You need to be on the lookout for, synonyms that has to do with graph description, process line description. You need to read, you need to like search, you need to go through books, you need to practice. That's the way forward. Practice is actually the way forward, especially for your writing task, because as you write this particular one now, you would write the next one probably about the same thing, and you find out that there's something you have added to the recent one that you have written. There's a knowledge you have gotten. So if you don't keep practicing, you won't be able to excel in this exam. You need to practice as much as possible. I do know how difficult it is to practice, but unfortunately, practice is what you must do. All right. When you have looked for your keywords and you have underlined them, you have identified the words you are going to change them with, you are going to like interchange them, ensuring that the meaning of the sentence is not altered in any way. You look out for any unlabeled part of the process and you can name it yourself. If you find a process that does not have a name, you can identify a name and give to it. And if you can't, you move on from there. Then you look for a logical start point for your process graph. All right. Step one, adding, this. Step two, this and that. So if you see from the beginning, you need to pick a point. You need to pick one particular point where you think that should be your beginning. I do sincerely think that the first thing that you see should be your step one. The first thing you see should be your step one. All right. So you look for a logical middle point as well for the process graph so that you can separate the data into two paragraphs in the body of your report. When you get for it, how do you do that? You need to identify the whole of the process on a simple first time look. You should be able to count how many steps are involved in this process, how many steps are in this process. Maybe there are 5, maybe there are 10, maybe there are 15. If, for instance, you have a process that involves 15 steps or 12 steps, what you do is to identify the middle point and make it the middle, the half, share it into half and make it a midpoint for your test. All right. Then the beginning to the middle will be your first body paragraph, and then the middle to the end will be the second body paragraph. Because in a process graph, you are not expected to write a conclusion. You are just expected to write this thing, explain it. It's in a graph, just normal graph, that you can write a conclusion. When you have given all of your highlights in your body paragraph, then you can say in summary or summarily. All right. Those are the words you can use. You don't use conclusion for that. The end of it, that's your final paragraph. That's in a graph you can have in conclusion. But in a process graph, you can't, because you are expected to write 2 different paragraphs for the whole of the process. And how you can get those 2 different paragraphs is for you to divide the whole process into 2 equal parts or nearly equal parts. You pick the upper part and discuss as one whole, and you pick the lower part and discuss as a whole. Is it making sense to you? All right. So when you number the steps, it will help you to make sure that you don't miss out any of the steps. You need to number them so you don't miss anyone out. Because if you don't, you will miss them out and you will score a less mark for your task achievement, for your task completion, because these are the criteria you are going to be rated on. After doing this, you go ahead and write your report. When you've done writing your report, when you are done, you will now proofread your report. You proofread your work and you submit. That's all about the map, the process graph. We are going to do an example in this class. I'm going to show you, can we do an example here? I'm just going to show you a sample. Yeah, I hope I can. I'm going to show you a sample. Let me see. The process graph is actually the simplest of all the graphs. So if you find them in your exam, you have been highly favored, really. It's about the simplest. It's actually the simplest, yeah. So let's see. I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Let's have a look at what we've got here. All right, so I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Sorry. It's a bit wobbly here with me today. Okay. Hope I find it. Yes, I did find it. Can you see my screen now? If you can see it, just wave. Perfect. You can take a screen grab, screenshot it. Screenshot it on your phone. That will help you when we start discussing, and I have taken it out. All right, you can all see my screen, isn't it? The diagram below shows the various stages involved in the production of beer. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. You need to identify what kind of task is this. This task is just a simple process task. Okay, so can you see my cursor moving? Good. We are going to count. You count with me the steps. All right. So let's go. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is from 4 is to 5 here. Follow the arrow, please. Then to 6, 7, then 8 here. This is 9. This is 10. And this is 11. So how many steps do we have? 11. Thank you. I can see your mouth even though I can't hear your voices. All right, so we've got 11 steps here. We have 11 steps. So what do you suggest we do? What did I say we should do? Identify what? A starting point, isn't it? So we are going to take our number 1 as our starting point. And then maybe, you know, to me, there's a long arrow from here to here. These steps are so close. The first ones here, they are so close. So I'm going to use my discretion and I'll take on the first 6 steps, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. I'll take the first 6 steps as my first body paragraph. Are you getting the point? Then I'm going to take the second side now, will be from step 7, 8, 9, 10. If I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then I'll have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. How many did we count? Yeah, so I'm taking the first 7 steps, darling. I'm taking the first 7 steps. All right. And then I'm going to take the last 5 steps together. Okay. I hope I'm not making a mistake. Is it 7 or 6? So if it is 7, then the last one will be 4. Because 11 minus 7 is 4, isn't it? Okay. So I'm taking these that are very close to themselves. That can be your criteria for identifying a midpoint. If you see that some steps are very close or similar with each other, it can help you to bring them together. When there's a long gap or there's like a fluctuation or a break in between the steps, you can take that as your second step. Do you understand? Like I had just done here now, because of this long arrow, I have decided, and then these steps are closely together and the others are closely together, I have decided to take them. It does not mean I must break even. All right, if I have 12 steps, for instance, it does not mean that I must say 6 and 6. No, I can use my discretion as long as I'm able to cover all that I'm expected to cover. Does that make sense? Good. So your common sense comes in here. Your common sense play here. All right. So going to write this statement, do you now identify the synonyms that we want? Do you identify your keywords here so we can get our synonyms? The keywords here so we can get our synonyms. What are our keywords? Unmute yourself, everybody. Unmute yourself and give me 1 point. I have to unmute you, yeah? I have to ask you to unmute, yeah. Unmute, yeah. I'm asking you to unmute. Actually, unmute everybody at the same time. Okay. Thank you. Gift, can you tell me one of our synonyms or one of our key points here?
I joined the class late. I am really lost, so I'm trying to catch up.
Catch up now. We are in an example. We are doing an example now. We are doing a class task, and we have a question. All right. The thing is, we want to identify our key points in this question. What do you think are the key points in this question?
Okay, production of beer.
Okay.
Stages.
That's a long one.
Stages.
Stages. Thank you. All right, Uchenna, give me 1 point, please. Production, Ebere.
Beer.
Beer. I hope you have another word. As you are mentioning them, I hope you have another word for them.
Yes.
Blessed amongst women. Uncle Chima, can you give me a word, please?
Various.
Various. Who again has not spoken? Tony.
Yes, diagram.
Diagram. There's still more. Who again has not talked? Perfect. It's a good thing that we are able to identify what is actually necessary. Okay. It's a good thing we are able to identify what is actually necessary.
What about comparison? I don't know, from this point to that point?
No, we are not going to talk about the summary, the question. We're not talking about the question. We're just talking about the task. What we can see. There's shows, there's below here. All right. So you can join them together and just get a phrase for it if you want. If not, you can just go ahead and get word for word. One thing we must know at this stage is the fact that you don't have to get the words one after the other. You must not get one word for all of them. You can write the whole of this statement in your own English, not changing the meaning. Do you understand? You can write in a way that you don't have to change the meaning. So yeah, that is it. Let's see. Okay. So we have The diagram below shows the various stages involved in the production of beer. If you gave a word, if you identify the word, give us one word that can replace it. One word to replace diagram, please. Diagram.
Picture.
Picture. Any other word?
Illustration.
Illustration. Thank you very much. What about various?
Hello?
Various?
Different.
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 Good. Stages.
Process.
Steps.
Yes.
Yeah, process. Well, okay. What about production? Somebody gave production?
Yes.
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing. Thank you. Another word? Making. Somebody told me beer. So which other word do you have for beer?
Alcohol.
Alcohol. Alcoholic drink. Yeah?
Yeah.
You have to say it well. Alcohol is not correct. Alcoholic drink is preferable. But I also want you to note that you must not change everything like I said. Especially the noun that is there. The beer is the noun now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beer here is what is the subject of our discussion. The making of the beer is the subject of our discussion. All right, so I'm going to mute everyone now. I'll have to stop this before I can do that. Just mute. Go mute, please, until we have another discussion again where you have to participate. All right, so step one, we are going to start from our beginning. Remember, we have gotten the words, all right? So altogether, we said there are 11 steps. So our overall statement is going to concentrate on telling us that overall, there are about 11 steps in the production or in the making or in the manufacturing of beer, of alcoholic drink. All right? So the diagram below shows the various stages involved in the production of beer. Now, write this sentence for me. Write it. I want to see it. Write it for me. Write and send to all, like we used to do. Hurry up. If you can't have your video on, please, you will have to excuse us from this class. You can join the Telegram class, the YouTube class, please, and you will have a good watch. Thank you. I'm waiting for your introduction. I'm waiting for your overall statement. I've given us the part B of the overall statement. So you write the A part, add to the B part, and let's have a full paragraph, a full statement here so we can move on. 1 minute is enough for that, isn't it?
Okay.
I've not started seeing it. Start sending them in, please. Okay. It's not a complete sentence. Oh, yes, so you need to write the complete sentence, gold. It's not complete statement yet. I've given a full statement. I've given you the B part. You write the A part and add them together. All right? Okay, Uchenna. What's the problem?
Please, I don't know how to type on this.
Okay, say it.
Okay. The pictures below show the various steps involved in manufacturing alcoholic drink.
Okay. It's not finished yet. Your overall statement?
Oh.
I had said it. Overall, there are about 11 steps in the manufacturing or in the making of beer. Since you have used manufacturing, you use making now in the making of beer. All right.
Okay.
And your
All
grammar,
right.
your grammar in that your sentence is a bit not too okay. You should write in the manufacturing, not in manufacturing alcoholic drink. In the manufacturing of. All right. That looks or sounds
All right.
more correct.
Okay.
That's good. Okay, so the process reviews the steps involved in beer manufacturing. Overall, it is evident that there are about 11 steps. Too much grammar. Please don't write too much grammar so you don't make mistakes. Okay? The picture below describes the process. It is evident. Overall, there are about 11 steps in the making of beer. It is concise, it is precise, it is simple, and it is clear. Isn't it? Because you are here to prove to the examiner, so you can't say evidently or you can't say it is evident. You are here to prove it. You have not discussed the steps. You don't put yourself in trouble with what you say from the beginning. If you say there are about 11 steps, it means that there can be 11 steps and there can be less. Peradventure, you are not able to finish discussing all the steps, or you miss something out. There are about 11 steps. Secondly, you don't know the marking scheme that this examiner is carrying. Maybe one of the steps that you have identified is not a step in that marking scheme. Maybe two of the steps that you have identified is broken down into 3 steps. There's a place you jumped. So please don't be too sure. Don't sound too, too, that kind of, I too sabi the thing. I understand now. Haba, now 11 steps day here, examiner. I know it's a good thing to be, affirmative, to be assertive, to like, you got your points and you are sure of your, but please, I'm talking about what I've heard others talk about. So you just say about, so you are not too rigid, okay? All right, the process map illustrate. Can you avoid the use of process? Is there a process in our statement? Illustrate the different steps, illustrate the different phases. Our grammar, please. Illustrates the different phases involved in manufacturing of beer. Overall, there are about 11 steps in the making of beer. Your grammar. If not, I'll say your introduction or your overall statement is perfect. Fafa, you've not given me a complete statement. All right. Are we to write introduction and overall together, ma? That is your introduction. That is your overall statement. You add your introduction, which is the task you have been asked to do. And I've said that you have a specific, you need to know the difference between writing task 1 and writing task 2. In your writing task 1, it is called an overall statement. Everything that you are writing. That is because it's what you can identify. Is join together your problem statement and your overall statement, as in what you can identify on just a first look, a single look at this picture. You add it together and that forms your introduction. That forms your overall statement. For your task 2, that's where you have a specific statement and a general statement that forms your introduction. Your specific statement is the task you have been asked to do. Your general statement is what the question has said, your question prompt that you have rephrased. That's the difference between writing task 1 and writing task 2, the beginning of it. Did I confuse anybody? Okay, so yeah. The figure revealed the steps. The figure, did I give you a figure? There's no number here. You need to identify when to use numbers, percentages, figures, amounts. Okay? One good thing with this kind of class is the fact that you get corrected on the, on the go. Please, when writing this kind of introduction or overall statement, don't use figures when figures are not used. Don't use numbers or amounts. There's no figure here, please. There's a picture here, there's a diagram here, there's an illustration here. You can decide to choose anyone, all right? It reviews the steps involved in beer manufacturing. Overall, there are about 11 steps in the making of beer. That's it. The picture below shows the various steps involved in manufacturing of beer, the various steps, the different steps. You told me different, and now you are using various, uncle. As much as you can change, please change, all right? It's a good thing that we all do understand what we are trying to do here, because there's no point really just me coming to explain one thing that I've read somewhere or that I've experienced, and at the end, you don't really get to, have hands on it. And then you go in there to the exam and you are not able to do any serious thing. Okay, so the diagram beneath portrays how beer making is processed. Okay, the second part I would have preferred it. How the beer, step-by-step way of making beer. Step by step. I like that because it's moving from one to the other. I like the use of step by step, but you need to watch your grammar, please. All right, that's done. Introduction or overall statement for writing task 1, done and dusted. So if you find anything about process graph, this is how you are going to go about it. You get your first paragraph from paraphrasing the question prompt and getting an overall statement. I said your question prompt, you paraphrase it, you use synonyms, okay? You say it in your own English. That's the essence of the writing task, where you are made to write in your own words, in your own English. They just want you to understand that when you are told something and you have to explain to a patient, you don't have to keep using the words that the person that has said it to you first had used. And in the process of you changing this, you don't have to change in a way that the meaning is altered. So they want you to be able to communicate with your colleagues, with your patients, with the world around you generally, in a manner where you are able to pass on the right information at all times without having to repeat yourself on what you heard first. That's the essence. It's just for interaction. When you come over, you will find out that the whole process from English to CBT to OSCE, all of them, they are all preparing you for your adaptation into the system on this side of the world. It starts from the English. Okay, so we'll move over to our second body paragraph. In our second body paragraph, I had told us that I've taken the first 7 steps, all right? And I've identified my point for starting, my beginning point, my start point. I have identified it, and I have identified my midpoint as well, where I have the end of my first paragraph, my second paragraph, or my first body paragraph, and then I have the beginning of my second body paragraph or my third paragraph. Do we understand? So now it starts from the point of malted belly up to the point of where, let's go back. Did you take a screenshot? Did you take a screenshot? If you did, you should see it and tell me. All right, so I've taken it up to the point of cooling. I've taken it up to the point of cooling. So what am I going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about malted barley. I hope you have a book and a paper. I'm going to be talking about the milling of malted barley. I'll talk about mashing. I'll talk about lautering at the point where spent grain is used for animal feed. Are you seeing it? There's something going out from the process, the point of loitering. Can you see this? Yeah? Something is going out from there, which is spent grain for animal feed. Yeah? Then I'll go over to the point where there is boiling. And at the point of boiling, I have hops added into it. I have sugar as well added into it at the point of boiling. And then I go to the whirlpool and then to the cooling. That is going to make up my first body paragraph. Then my second body paragraph will go to my fermenting. At the point of fermenting, you see that yeast is added on both sides. So yeast is added in good quantity, liberally. They are not stingy with the yeast. From my fermenting, it goes to maturing, where the process proceeds to filtering and then to packaging, from where it is transported to the consumers. All right? Okay. So now, I hope you have written this down. Now, before we move on, I want you to know that there are phrases that we use. I hope you know that there are phrases that we use in this discussion, in the discussion of process graph. Phrases like first stage, in the beginning or something. So we'll be discussing those phrases for the different stages. All right? Like firstly, words like firstly, next to it, you have words like next to it, or followed by. All right? Or followed by. Do we get the point? I want to give you a list of them so you can have them. Let me just have a look and give you a complete list of these phrases that you can use in discussing your, because I don't have everything on my head, that you can use in discussing your process graph. There are phrases of progression where you can describe a step or a particular process with. Phrases of progression, you move from one place to the other, from one stage to the other. What are those phrases? Maybe we should even list them. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Can we just write for me one each, phrases that we can use? One each, please. Yeah, let's go. Do you have? Okay. I'm seeing some good ones here. That's good. To start with, the first step in the process is followed by, proceeding to, leading on to, and then, you've got them all here. Thank you very much. I'll just see if I can screen grab something or just copy something and post as a comment. Then you can have a look and see it again for yourself. So now, having these words like we have written them, let's go on to describe it. Let's go on to describe it. So, what are we going to be saying? We have discussed that the diagram illustrates, or the picture illustrates, the different steps used to manufacture beer or in the process of beer making. Overall, there are about 11 stages in the process, all right, beginning with the milling of malted barley and ending with the packaging of the beer. All right, if you add that to your overall statement, that will go a long way. It will help to make it, a bit more, and then it will tell the examiner what to expect. So she or he will look out for you talking about the milling of malted barley and the packaging of the beer at the end. That's your overall statement. That's all you've got. Now, let's start. All right. Maybe you say, to begin with, or the first stage in the process, all right, or looking at the stages of the process, all right, we have, and in the beginning, malted barley. Let me see the picture so I don't make mistake. Malted barley is milled, and then water is added to it in order to get liquid malted barley, all right? Then it is mashed and lathered in a special tank. Can you see those tanks? If you have a picture, all right, in tanks. In order to get a pure liquid, the spent grain from it, see, the spent grain from it is used for animal feed. It's taken out and used for animal feed. Then the liquid grain, or the liquid barley that has been, malted, that has been mashed and all of that, is now boiled with sugar and hops added to it and mixed in a whirlpool before cooling. It's just a simple explanation. Beginning from the milling of malted barley, then it is mashed where water is added to it to make it liquid, and then lathered. During the process of lathering, the spent grain is taken out for animal feed. Then it proceeds to boiling, where sugar and hops are liberally added and taken to a special tank for boiling. Then it proceeds to cooling. That's a full paragraph that you have got. In the next stages, the cooled liquid is fermented in a special tank or a cylindrical tank by adding yeast and I'm seeing CO2 and carbon dioxide to it. All right. Then it goes to the storage tanks in order for it to mature. After that, the matured beer is transferred to a filter for filtration. Finally, the beer is packed in bottles and in barrels and loaded into a truck for delivery to the consumers. Is that difficult? The process graph is the simplest. It's not difficult. But we are very scared of the writing task, or we are very scared of IELTS generally. That's the number one thing that makes us fail. That's the truth. Yeah? So, you see, this is easy, isn't it? It's quite easy. And if you count, if you write this and you count, you have more than 150 words. That's the truth. If you write this thing that I've just explained and you count it, it's more than 150 words. So yeah, that's your process graph. That's how you write a process graph. What have I been saying since? I have said that in the course of your writing for a process graph, you need to identify a beginning point. You need to read the question, identify a beginning point, get a midpoint, and get an end point. Divide the process into two. Pick the upper part right in the first body paragraph. Pick the lower part right in the second paragraph. For your overall statement, you need to identify what keywords you've got. You use synonyms to rephrase them, and then you add what you can see. Overall, what I can see is that beer is made in different stages, and the stages are about 11 of them here. Beginning from the stage where, or the process or the step where the barley is malted, the malted barley is milled, up to when the packaged or the prepared or the ready, the made, what's it called, beer is packaged for distribution or delivery to the consumers. So you read the questions and the process very well. Read the questions, you underline your keywords, you paraphrase the keywords where possible. You can turn some nouns into nouns if you can. If not, leave it and move on. Look for any unlabeled parts, and then you name them if you can. You look for a logical start point for the process. All right. For a logical start point, for me, what I did was the step where malted barley, all right, is milled. So looking for a logical midpoint also for the process is critical, so that you can separate the data into paragraphs in the body of your report. Then you also look for an endpoint. You identify an endpoint for the process, all right? You number the steps in the process. We have numbered it that there are 11 of them. We numbered 11 of them, and we have been able to write about them. You now go over what you have written, and that is the end of your writing for your process graph or process whatever, process diagram, process picture, process illustration. That's the end of it. This will take us to map or floor plan, maps or floor plans, all right? In your IELTS test, when you find maps or floor plan, is a task that is designed to test your ability to compare and contrast information that is shown in a map or on a floor map, maybe of a building, all right? Here you have to write 150 words, remember? And the task is to be completed in 20 minutes. You must finish the task in 20 minutes. Here, you must identify that every article here is a countable noun that is either a or an or they. Like when I was making that correction, the manufacturing of beer. Okay? That every countable noun needs an article. Here, you also need to understand that there are passive tenses where your sentences will start with the object and the subject of a sentence is often missed. So you need to be very, very careful. Your language of description. For your maps, you need a language of a description like location, language to describe location. What do you use? You use your compass. All right? You use compass. Where we have north, south, east, and west, you need to identify in most of the program, most of the diagrams that you see that are these questions that you see them, you will discover that there will always be a small map. If you find, a small, what do we call it? Compass by the side. Okay? There's always compass for you to identify areas. Okay? Okay. You also need some verbs to describe the changes that has taken place or that is taking place, where maybe things were added or constructions was made or something was removed or something was changed or demolished or transformed. Also, you need to use clauses that are useful for adding extra information about the subject or the object of your sentence. Okay. All right. We will also do an example. Where you have a language of description for your locations, you can use your map. What am I saying? Your compass. Now, on the compass, on the upper part of the compass, we need to go back to our geography. On the upper part of the compass, you have the north, then the down is the south, then I'm facing you now. So on my right is the east, and on my left is the west. So it is north, south, west, and east for me. But if you are facing me, it will be east and west for you. So yeah, it will be north, south, west, and east, or east and west. You also need to know the places that are related to it. Now, on the upper part, on the upper right hand, you have your northeast. On the lower right, you have your southeast. Okay? And on the lower left, you have your southwest. And on the higher or upper left, you have your northwest. Ooh, this is quite difficult. Okay, so northeast on the upper side, northwest, then southeast and southwest. Yeah, it's easier that way. Okay, so you need to identify these places because you are going to be using them to describe what you are saying. You are going to be using them to describe what you are saying. Sometimes if you don't find the compass, then you will have up, which is top, then center and bottom, right and left. So usually what we have is center, bottom, top, right, and left. So when you are describing, you can use top left, top right, and bottom right. That's a map on the floor, a floor map, or a map of a particular region or an area, a village. It could be your village map, it could be Nigerian map. All right. So you need to understand where these things are located so you know how to describe them. You read the question, what is our plan? You read the questions and the map floor plan and understand what it is, then you underline your keywords like we did previously. You paraphrase these keywords that are given in the question anywhere possible. You look for a compass so that you can know whether you can use it, all right? You will know whether to use it to describe locations. And if there's no compass, you need to identify the one you can use, center, top, bottom, top left, top right, and bottom right. So whichever way, whether you get a compass or you don't get a compass, you need something to describe with. So you need to create your compass yourself. Work out the overall summary after you have brainstormed your points for the answer. Okay, so how do you brainstorm your point for your answer? Remember that in the other map, in the other one we did, the process graph, we were able to identify the steps. So here, you are going to identify the areas, the things that are there, that are located. Anything that does not have a name that looks like something, you can give it a name. When you describe it, your examiner is able to identify it. Then you work out your overall summary. So there should be like maybe 1, 2, 3 points in your overall summary that you add together. Then you plan the structure of your answer, how you are going to group your data. Remember, we did data grouping, so it's not strange to you. We had to group our data. We had the first 7 and we had the last 4, isn't it? In that example we did previously. Then you go ahead to write your task and you proofread your work, taking into consideration your spellings, all right, your punctuations, your marks, all these exclamation marks, question marks, your commas, your full stop, dotting of your I's and crossing of your T's. Those things go a long way. Remember that they form your basic scores for this test that you are writing. Okay. Sometimes you will find that you have a single map. When you get a task with one map, it's okay. You do this that I've said. If you get a task with two different maps, then it makes the work kind of easier. That's to me, because you are going to discuss map 1 and map 2. So that way, you don't need too much work. You just need to talk about this map in paragraph 1 and your body paragraph 1, and talk about the next map in your body paragraph 2, taking into consideration the different points. And one thing with the in a station where you have two maps is the fact that you will have to make comparisons. You must make comparisons, because what is on map 1 or map A may not be on map B, or may have changed on map B, or may have been wiped out totally, or may have been modified, maybe changed, removed, or added. Maybe something else is constructed, or it is transformed, or another thing is created from that particular one. Or you just find out that entirely that thing is not there and something else is occupying that position in your second map. You need to take into consideration these points, because they are going to form the basis for your comparisons. All right, so what do? You rephrase the task introduction. You give an overall summary of the differences between the two locations if you have two maps. All right, then you need to point out what is the key difference between the two locations. Like I said, the main differences are likely to be maybe the size, where you can now describe according to size. We will see words we can use or phrases we can use according to size. Or it may be a total removal, or it may be a transformation. There may have been a change. So when you have like a difference in size, we use words like maybe has increased by half its original size, or reduced by half its original size if it was increased or decreased, depending on what you find. These things are relative. They are just about what you can see. What I'm trying to say now may be based on the example that I'm going to give, or that I'm getting, or that we're solving, but you may get a different map with different figures at the end of the day. Just use the idea of this one to answer that one. That's the essence of your practices. Okay? Sometimes it's that they have changed location. It was on the north before, now it is on the west. It was in the center before, now it is at the bottom, bottom left or bottom right. So yeah, it depends on where you find them, then you can describe what you have seen. As with the other tasks, you always have to look for your logical way to start, to separate this data into paragraphs in the body. So like you see, I said it is easy to separate this one because it's double map. So you just pick one map and go, you pick the second map and go. No two ways about it. You just know that, I'm going to discuss this one and I'm going to discuss that one. It makes the work easier. But I'm not assuring you that you may find a double map in your own exam. I don't even know if it's a map that you're going to see, or a floor map, or a map of Nigeria that you will see. You also need to know one very important thing about writing the body of this type of task, because you have to choose a logical starting point to begin your description, and then state clearly where this is located on the map. Remember that your report should always make sense grammatically. If it does not make sense to me or to your examiner, then it means that your work is futile. Okay, the worst way to write is to jump about. You don't have that coherence. Remember when I was discussing coherence and cohesion, I talked about the flow between your work, and from what I've been discussing with you, you can see a flow between the work. Sometimes some of the things that we need, that some of us need, is not actually about knowing what to write or no. No, some of us just need to know how to arrange these things in a logical manner that it makes sense to the examiner and we get our mark. To some, that's what they need. So you need to know that your cohesion, there has to be that flow between your work. There has to be, that understanding. The examiner reads what you have written without having to ask any question, and understand it. Understand it immediately. Like the process map we did, you and I know that if you start from, we started from the top where we have our belly and then go to the middle, and these things are visible. You progressed from one stage to the other. We didn't say, well, and no matter how you make the beer, whether you go through whatever means, you will still package them at the end. In your first body paragraph, you will miss it all. So we need to be very careful. You need to be very careful. You should not write a conclusion unless you have less than 150 words. And there's no way you're going to have less than 150 words. By the time you are finished describing one map, you are close to half. Then you finish describing the other map, you would have gotten what you want. Recognize the fact that you should avoid error. Okay? You should avoid error. We are going to do a double map. A single map is fine. You will get that. Maybe you can search for that as an assignment and do it. You can post it on our YouTube. When you go to the YouTube for this particular video, just write it as a comment. All right, as a comment, and I can see it. I heard someone sent in a work, but I've not seen the work. I didn't see it where, I don't know where you sent it to. And we did give an email address for some things to be sent, and you need to be patient. If you want me to vet your work, you need to be patient because I still work. I was on a night shift last night, came home to sleep a bit before this class. So yeah, I'm still going, by 7. So that's why you see that our classes, there'll be adjustments in the timing almost all the time, because I don't want to miss it. I want you to get the information you need, but I can't adjust my roster myself. So the only one I have power over is the class. I will have to keep changing the class time to fit in. So yeah, someone said the time is not convenient and all of that. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, we have to work according to my own timing in the meantime. So as I was saying, we are going to do a task now, and we'll just write introduction, and we will write about this map. Let's share our, let me share now. Okay. I want to share my screen with you. You can take a screen grab. You can see my screen. Can you see the screen now? Ebere, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so summary task for a single map. This is one map. Remember, see the line. See the line. This is one map. Okay. This map is showing, the map shows 2 different proposed locations for a camping ground. 2 different locations. We are lucky we have a compass. You see, this is what I mean when I said there's a compass. This thing, this is a compass. You'll find it in your writing task when you see a map. And if you don't find it, just use center, top, bottom, top right, top left, bottom right, bottom left. Yeah. Just sit down and, do all the drama. You will get it. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. It means you can write more. But be careful so you don't write too much, yeah? Okay, so we have 2 different sites. This is site 1 and this is site 2. Now, remember in my explanation, I said if you find anything that was not labeled, there's no name, you can name it. Now, to me, this is an airport, isn't it? I take that as an airport. I take this as a bus station or a bus stop. All right. This is the first side. I'll take this as a bus stop. I'll take this as a shopping center or a grocery shop. A shop. Then this one, we all know it is a golf center. Golfing. That's it. Then this one is a place. This is a yacht or boat. So we can say it's a boating place or a sea for boating or a yachting ground or whatever you decide to call it. Okay. This one is horse riding. This one, where there's book, we say maybe like a library, yeah, or a school. Should we say a school? A school is not related to camp. So let's say a library. And this one is like a river where you can fish. Am I correct? The fishing hook is there and the fish is here. Now we have to do an introduction for this task. What are we going to write? Write me an introduction for this task now. Introduction, please. Overall statement. Get on your writing pad. Get on your writing pad. I'm waiting for the introduction. Has anyone finished? Introduction, please. I'm waiting.
Please, the diagram again.
Oh, I thought I said you should take a screenshot. I'm sharing my screen. I need to give it a bit of time, please. Take a screenshot. Just take a screenshot. So you can have it on your phone. You can even on your own write about it when you are free. Some people are finding it difficult to join the class. What's happening? I'm waiting for my introduction, please. Okay, nobody has dropped one. Is it that we do not understand or what? Good. Okay. Another one, please. I'm waiting. Good. Okay, it's not yet complete. Good. Can you make a complete statement, please? I told us you need to do an overall statement. You need to complete your statement. If you have finished, you have given me like a paraphrase, a rephrase of the question. You need to write an overall statement. You need to write an overall statement. Oh, I told you to take a picture. I want to be seeing the class. And you know, when I share my screen, I don't see anything. I see what the screen is. That's why I go off from sharing. So take a picture now, please. Okay. I just want to see what you're writing, and I can't have this on and do that at the same time. All the same, we may have to continue like that. We may just have to continue. Okay, so have you gotten what you wanted, madam? Person that wanted the picture again. Okay, so going by our step, it's still there. Is it not there? It's still there. Going by, wow. Okay. All right. Thank you for trying. We still have our rules. If you come into this class, you need to have your video on. If you can't have your video on, you will excuse us and join the YouTube class. If you join the YouTube, it's the same thing. There's no difference in the classes. All right. So yeah, if you must join us on the visual class, you will have to join the YouTube class. If you join the visual class, you have to have your video on, or you join the YouTube class. Thank you. So let's discuss this now that we have seen here. Thank you very much all for trying the introduction, that task. So we have what did I say we should do? When you see your task, what should we do? How do we structure it? You read the question, all right, underline keywords, you rephrase the keywords, and then you make your overall statement. You paraphrase the keywords that I've given in the question, and then you look for a compass. Thank God we have our compass. You can see our compass here. You brainstorm your key points, yeah? So with this one, let's see what we've got. You have your overall summary we are going to write. We are going to look for maybe 1 or 2 points for our overall summary. For this particular task. So the map below shows 2 different proposed locations for a camping ground. The map below, the diagram below, the given picture, the given diagram, the given illustration portrays 2 proposed locations. Okay, we can use sites. All right. Proposed. What other word can we have for proposed? Potential. For a camping ground. Probably 2 suggested sites for camping ground or for camping. Overall, what can you see on this overall? How many items do we have on this map here? This first one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah? And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So by virtue of this, can we say that site 1, which is this, can we still see the screen? We're looking for our overall statement now. We want to get an overall statement. What can you say about this? Considering the items or the articles that are on these different sites, can we say that this site is smaller than this one? Because there are more things here than here, isn't it? This site here has more activities than this one. Can we say that? Yeah, that site 1 has less activities than site 2. Am I correct?
Yes.
Perfect. What other thing again? Site 1 has lesser activities than site 2. However, site 2 is site 1 is closer to the transport amenities or facilities, isn't it? Can you see? There's a major road here, there's an airport, and there's a bus station. Here, there's no bus station, is there? And there's no airport. I told us to label what we can see. We are doing this together. I've not done this task before. Are we correct? Do you understand what I'm trying to do here?
Yes.
Good. So you see that site 1 is closer to transport facility. There's the bus stop and there's the airport than site 2. While site 2 has more activities than site 1. That's your overall statement too. The picture illustrates 2 potential positions or sites for camping. Overall, site 1 is closer to transport amenities or facilities than site 2, while site 2 has more activities, more recreational activities than site 1. What have I done? Remember that I said summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Have I not made comparison here? Have I not been able to compare the two? I've compared the two.
Wow.
Good. Have I not highlighted some points here? I've highlighted the transportation. I've talked about the size and I've talked about the activities. Have I not? So you see, from the beginning, you are able to, make your examiner know what to expect in the body of your write-up. Your examiner will be on the lookout for descriptions about the transport. We'll be looking out for me to mention or highlight the various activities. Okay? So now if you look at it, site 1, this is site 1. Using this compass, on what side is site 1? Using your compass now, tell me, on what side is site 1? Maureen, I've unmuted you.
It's on the south.
Site 1 is on the south?
Yes.
How did you use your map? North? South?
Yes.
How can you say it's on the south? This is south, isn't it? This place like this is south.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Yes.
So is there a map here? Is there a site here?
No.
So why did you say it's south?
Okay.
Wazi Yunana, can you tell me why you are raising your hand there?
That was actually it.
It's actually where?
I made a mistake raising my hand.
Okay,
The
tell
site
me
one
where.
is on the west side.
Thank you. It's on the west. See your compass, sister. Look at this compass here. North, south, east, and west. So this is west. Everything around here is west. And this is it. If you divide this into two, can you see it? And then you do this way. This is on the west, isn't it? Eh? Is it not on the west? It is on the west. So where is side 2? Where is it located?
East.
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 Is it completely east?
More of east and south.
Northeast. Northeast.
Northeast. It's on the northeast. See, is it not larger? See, look at side 1. It's smaller in size, is it not? Look at side 2, it's larger. So in your overall statement, you can say that side 1 is smaller than side 2, while it is closer to transport facilities. While side 2 is bigger and there are more recreational activities around side 2. Do you get the point? So these are the things you look out for. You look out for very important points. Don't concentrate too much on just this question because this is not your exam question. I just want you to get the logic behind the answering of this question so you know what to be on the lookout for when you have your own map in your exam or in your practice. All right? So what again can we say about site 1? We have picked site 1. Oh. Remember, in our body paragraph, we are going to discuss this site 1 in one body paragraph, then discuss this site 2 in the next body paragraph. All right, so site 1 is located on the west. It is smaller than the other one, but it is more advantageous because it is proximal to transportation. Is it not? There's just an airport across the road, downside, and on the other side of it, on the bottom of it is an airport, and on the, what is this now? On the right side, we have the bus station next to it. In addition, what do we have here? We have a grocery shop in the same site and a golf center at the northeast. This is northeast, this is northwest, on the west. This is it. Can you see? With this, you have finished talking about this site. We have talked about the size, that it is smaller. All right. We have talked about the fact that it's closer to transport amenities. We have mentioned the airport and the bus station. We have talked about this grocery shop, and we have talked about the golf center. Moving to side 2, turning to side 2, while for side 2, these are phrases you can use. It is located on the northeast of the map. It's a much larger one, okay? And in addition, it is located very close to many recreational activities where we have the boating side, boating center, horse riding, the library. So you can now mention the locations of these things, okay? And to the far bottom, we have the place for fishing. On the west of it again, we have the golf center. Remember, this is a golf center. We're discussing the whole of this map, but we have divided it into two, picking site 1 and site 2. So on the western side of it, we have the golf center as well. Then we have the library here and the horse riding and boating. Far away from it, on the south, we have the fishing pond or water or river or whatever, where maybe people can go to for fishing if they are visiting that site or something. There's nothing more to write about this whole thing. Nothing more to write. It's not as difficult as we think. What have I said you should do? You tell me, you read the question, pick the key points, rephrase it, give me an overall statement, what you can see, pick side 1, discuss it, pick side 2, discuss it, full stop. That is the end of my story. Is it difficult? Is it difficult?
No.
Ebere, Ebere, is difficult, Abi. Eh? Now, it is well. But seriously, if you practice, you will pass. The whole aim of us providing you this class is for you to go all out and do your practices. It's so that you can independently practice, all right? You can independently practice and just pass without having to write twice. So with this that we have done, do you think that if you find these 2 things we have done today, that you'll pass it? Are you confident that, for instance, in your exam, you see this question, you are already sure of 1/3? Because it's 1/3 now. This is 20 minutes. The other one is 40 minutes in your 1 hour, right? In your 1 hour. So you are sure of this 1/3. What do you need? 1 more mark. So by the time you add your writing part, tax 2, and you are able to score 1/2 from there, that will be 2/3. And 2/3 should give you at least a 6.5 in your writing task. A 6.5 in writing is accepted by NMC UK. In writing alone, the other ones, the lowest is 7.0. But you can have a 6.5. They also recognize that writing is quite difficult, especially because of the timing. But it's something that we can do. I saw a result where somebody had 8.5 in writing. 8.5. But the person had 6.5 in reading. So this has brought me to you identifying the area where you need help. Okay? You need to know where you are stronger. And you can't do this if you don't practice. Today, we have discussed writing tax 1. Previously, we have talked about writing tax 1, not in this class. In another class, it's available on YouTube. We talked about writing tax 1. We talked about what it is, what is expected, the question types that you will find, the structure of the writing tax 1 generally. We discussed the band descriptors, where we made mention of the task completion or accomplishment or response. We talked about lexical resource. We talked about grammatical range and accuracy, and we discussed coherence and cohesion. If you want to really understand this class, you should go back to that one, go through it, because it forms the basis, the background for this one. Here, these examples we are doing, we are just applying what we have discussed previously in that class. That's why it will be a bit difficult if you've not followed from the beginning. But if you are good with catching up quickly, fine. Because, I mean, I keep mentioning it in the course of the class as well. All right? So we discussed about all of that, and we did an example on graphs. In the course of the example, we talked about the language, the phrases, the words that are expected for you to use in describing your graph, where we have peak, where we have plummet, where we have words like decline, grammatically, significantly, change sporadically. We had interception, where they intercepted each other, overtook each other, where we have words like a sudden decline. We have words like, if you go through that class, you will find it. And then today, we talked about, and then in that class as well, we discussed a flow map and process graph. Today, we have extensively talked about the process graph, what you expect in the process graph, the kind of questions you will find and how to answer it. And we did a class work. We have also talked about the map, flow map. We have talked about map by location. We have discussed an example as well. I'm sure that if you find questions in any of these, you will be able to pass. Generally, the structure of the writing task 1 is where you have 3 paragraphs. Writing task 2, you have 4 paragraphs. And that's because you have just an introduction, which is your overall statement, then your overviews. Your first body paragraph, your second body paragraph for writing task 1. You are expected to complete the task in 20 minutes. And you have to write not less than 150 words. You should write between 150 to 170. Don't write too much and don't write too small, too little, because both of them can make you have errors, and the presence of errors will score you a low band. So, in the examples we have discussed, if you do find any question on them, go ahead and do them, send them in for vetting, and we'll have a go and see how it goes with you. Is that okay? Is that okay? If you request for the official mail on Telegram, I think it's there on Telegram. We are very bad with having to go through things. It happens to me too when it has to do with the internet. Oh my God. When some countries are already going to write IELTS on the computer, we are still battling with paperwork. We are still battling with paper. When you get to this side, you will find out that everything is on the computer. During the pandemic, many people were working from home as if they were at work. They sit on their computers and work like the way you sit in your office and work in your home. In this country and in many developed or developing countries. The world is going global, so we need to up our game, all right? I keep seeing questions about not knowing how to access Zoom. You have joined before, you can't join, you're having problems. Meanwhile, it's just a simple issue of clicking the right thing. We need to up our game because it will help us. That's the truth. Remember that in writing task 2, you are going to have to see questions on technology, computers, the use of this technology. In fact, people that are writing the IELTS task now, going by the way events are, if it was like the way nursing council set their exams, me and you know that anybody writing council exam in this period will write about disaster management, will write about, you see questions on the management of pandemic, emergencies and all of that. You see questions on isolation and barrier nursing, because that's what is in the trend. And in the same vein here, you will likely find questions on the use of computers, technology to access, a lot of things to study. Children are going to school. Their school did not stop. It is technology. They were doing their assignments, which is going to be when their results will be announced. Okay? Scotland just announced their own results and the students failed because many of them were at home and playing games on the computers instead of doing their assignments. And now they are complaining. They are complaining. So you see, you need to up your game, all right? God will help us, but we need to help ourselves. Is there any question? You have a question, your hand, please. Gift. Okay. Gift, ask your question. We can call them back immediately.
Okay, all right, ma. Good evening, ma. Thanks for the wonderful class. My question is, like writing class 1 and writing class 2, do we have a topic?
You have topics now. So what I've been explaining, it means you don't understand.
No, I mean, no, I mean when starting the writing,
No, you just go straight and answer
do
your
we
question there.
have a general topic like just before the introduction or the
Nothing.
Okay.
Just go straight
Okay.
and answer your question. Yeah? Okay,
Hello,
so
ma.
yes, please.
Please, in answering the tax one
Who
question,
is talking,
well,
please?
after writing,
I can't see who is talking.
Maureen,
Maureen, where is Maureen? Okay, I've seen you. Sorry.
in answering the tax one question, after writing the introduction, should we continue with the overall statement?
Immediately on this, in fact, if there is space, continue on the right, on the same line.
Should we leave a line and
If there is space on that same line, put a full stop, start with a capital letter, overall, comma, continue.
okay. Then
Please
after each paragraph, should we leave a line or should we continue that way?
No, please continue. Just go in, invert. Yeah, you know the way we write now, paragraphs, different paragraphs.
Yes.
No, just continue your writing. Just the way you write normally, please. There's no paparazzi about doing all of those ceremonies. It's not needed.
Okay.
Thank you. Gift again. All right. Uchenna, ask your question, please.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for the lecture.
You're
My
welcome.
question is to know the location. Do we need to change the position of the compass for us to know the actual location where we are?
What will you check with?
Do I need to change the compass to be able to identify the position of the
You don't change it. You will find a compass like we found in this text, in this question that we did. You will find the question just by the corner, top left usually, or top right, or bottom left, but it's usually a way. They give it space from your main question so you don't mistake them. So you just use that compass. Looking at the compass, you divide whatever you are doing into that 4, north, south, all right, east and west. That's all. Are you still confused?
Full stop as only the
Her network, she's disappeared.
Hello,
Fafa,
ma.
ask your question.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the class. I wanted to ask, in our last class for listening, you gave us career zone as where we can try to practice on. Is there any site that you can give us for writing that we can also practice on?
You get Cambridge. From Cambridge 6, 7, 8, 9 to 14, academic. If you go online, you can find it. You can find Cambridge. Just write IELTS academic, IELTS Cambridge academic test. If you do academic test 1, you will find, you open it, they are there. Then you can see writing, reading, listening, speaking. The things that are under it, those 4 modules, you will find them there. All right?
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Who again is raising hand? Nobody. Okay, Maureen. Go ahead.
Hello, ma.
Yep.
What if we have map in 2 different years? How can
Those
we?
are two maps.
Okay,
I
then
thought I said it.
how can we? And at times they give us map of years in future. I
Yeah,
don't know how. How can
that's where you
we?
use future tense. There will be. If you find any example like that, go through
One
what
in
they
the
have done.
one in
Go
the past
through.
and one in the future.
For instance, you can have a map of a development that is taking place and what is expected. It's taking place up to this time, all right? And what is expected in the next 30 years. So the given graph and the given map or the given diagram is a map of business center in China from the year 2020 or 2015 to the year 2025. There are two different graphs. You will find the one that is from that time up to this present time, and you will find the one from this present time to that time that they are talking about. It means that one of them will carry the changes that they are expected. In that way, you are going to be using future tense to describe your second map, because it has not yet happened, but this is what they expect. So there will be construction of a new library on the northern part. It is expected that in year 2025, there will be a reformation or a transformation of the shopping complex from the size it was in map 1 to this size that is about twice its original size. So it is future tense that will describe the one that is coming up, and it is the past tense that will describe this one. Okay. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
The good thing about it, is that you are to describe one graph per time, so there's no confusion. Pick one of the graphs, describe it, finish that one, then go to the second one, finish with it. It's quite easy, isn't it? Then continue. Yeah, what's the last question? Is that all, Maureen?
I want to know if you already said something about it. You said to say one graph. We'll talk about one graph. So I want to know if we'll talk about that one in one paragraph, then talk about the other one in the other paragraph.
Perfect. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, then. Welcome. All right. Any more questions before we go? Hannah.
Good afternoon. Well done. Please, I want to know, like, how many statements are we going to write for the introduction?
If you write 3, it's fine.
Okay. Then the overall will now join it with the introduction.
That's what will make your 3 statements.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Your first statement is the problem statement. That's the question you were asked, the paraphrase. Okay. Your overall statement, you should have 2 overall. I mean, as in you should have 2 statements, like overall, from what we did, the example we did, overall, site 1 is smaller than site 2.
Site 2, yes.
Why site 2 is closer to whatever amenities? Is that not 2 statements? With our initial statement, that makes 3 statements, that makes the paragraph, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
You are good to go.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, please. Welcome. Who else? Any other thing? No more question. Does it mean that the class is well understood? Yeah? Okay. So if you have questions that you have done, maybe from those Cambridge books that I said, you can post them. What you do is you type them. Don't write and snap for me. I won't even look at it. That's the truth. I won't look at it. If you write in your book and you snap it and send it to me, please, I beg you, because it makes it very difficult to vet. It's very difficult to vet a work that is not typed. It means I will have to start typing it. But if you type it, I can do my corrections in brackets in between where I want you to make those corrections and send the same mail back to you. All right. So If you have your work written, send it to oversee nurses IELTS@gmail.com. Oversee nurses IELTS@gmail.com. And please give me time. Don't start sending reminders after maybe 14 minutes that you sent your question, please, so we can schedule. At the end, you are happy and I'm happy as well. Is that okay? All right, so in the absence of any other question, we have come to the end of today's class. We have discussed writing task 1. We have continued with it. We are coming, it's like a series. There are still more question types under it. We will still meet on Tuesday next week, hopefully by God's grace. And then we have another class on Saturday. I will edit the timing. The timing for Saturday should still be the same. Hopefully, yeah, it should be the same. I will be on a night shift, but I'll get home before then. So once I come home, the lesson will start. In the absence of any other thing, I will say goodbye to you. Enjoy the remaining part of your week and see you on Saturday. Bye.